The millionaire returns home and is shocked to find his new black maid and only son in the kitchen. The door creaked open before Grant Ellison even crossed the threshold. His polished shoes clicked against the cool tiles of his private foyer, the wheels of his sleek black suitcase trailing behind with a soft rattle. He looked every bit the man who had just closed million-dollar deals across Europe. Tailored white suit, violet shirt, designer watch, but nothing about him was prepared for what waited inside. He wasn't supposed to be back until Friday. A small private smile tugged at his lips as he reached down to brush his fingers over the small teddy bear tied to the suitcase handle. Lucas's favorite. 4 weeks without seeing his son had felt far too long. This was meant to be a surprise, the kind that would light up those wide blue eyes and erase the distance of the past month. He pictured Lucas running into his arms, laughing, holding on tight. Instead, the moment he stepped into the kitchen doorway, his chest tightened. At the sink stood a woman he didn't immediately recognize, a black woman wearing a gray apron over a dark, short-sleeved top. Her arms rested on the counter's edge, head bowed, shoulders trembling. She wasn't just crying quietly. It was the kind of shuddering grief that seemed to take over a person completely. And clinging to her, legs wrapped around her waist, arms locked around her neck, was Lucas. His son's face was red and tear-streaked, buried in the woman's shoulder as though she were the only safe place left in the world. He wasn't simply hugging her. He was holding on like his life depended on it. Grant stepped forward, his voice sharp. "Lucas." Neither of them moved. "Lucas," he said again, firmer this time. The woman flinched, her head snapping up to reveal tear-stained cheeks and wide, startled eyes, as if she'd just been caught doing something forbidden. Lucas finally turned, lips trembling, fresh tears spilling down his face. "No, don't take her," he wailed. The words hit Grant like a blow. I'm sorry, sir," the woman stammered, her voice hoarse. He won't let go." Grant took another step inside. "What's going on? Who are you?" "I'm Nia Monroe," she replied, trying to ease Lucas down, though his grip only tightened. "The agency sent me last month after Ms. Rena quit. We spoke on the phone twice." Grant blinked, letting the words sink in. "Yes, Nia." The soft-voiced woman from their brief phone calls. She had sounded polite, competent, professional. He'd approved her without much thought. But this he hadn't expected. Lucas was trembling now, clinging even tighter. "Please, Daddy," he begged, voice breaking. "Don't send her away. Please, she didn't do anything." "Send her away?" Grant echoed, stunned. "Why would I?" "I burned the rice," Nia said quietly, with a bitter edge. "That's why I was crying, but not because of you." Her voice wavered. "It's because Lucas told me he wished I was his mommy." The last word caught in her throat. Grant stared at her, words frozen on his tongue. "I didn't ask for that," she continued, her voice unsteady but resolute. "I never tried to take anyone's place, but he had nightmares, sir. Every night he called for someone, anyone, and I was the only one there. I sang to him, held him. He needed somebody." Grant's stomach twisted. He had left his son in the hands of strangers. Efficient, detached, their care measured in timetables and checklists. Rhea had once texted about Lucas waking in the night, screaming. He'd dismissed it as a phase. Now he knew it wasn't. Lucas shook his head violently, still pleading through sobs. "She helps me breathe, Daddy." Nia looked away, struggling to steady herself. "I'm not asking to stay. I just didn't realize how much it meant to him until he said that." The silence that followed was suffocating. Grant had faced down hostile boardrooms and come out on top, but now, in his own home, he felt powerless. His son, his world, was clinging to a woman he barely knew. And she, this stranger, looked more heartbroken than anyone he'd ever seen. "I thought I was doing the right thing," he murmured. "Working, building something for him." "Money doesn't sing to a child at night," Nia said softly, "or hold their hand after a bad dream." Lucas finally slid to the floor, but pressed himself against her side, his little hands gripping her apron like she might vanish at any second. Grant's voice cracked. And what are you to him now? Nia hesitated. Safe. Grant stood motionless, his white suit gleaming in the soft kitchen light. Behind them, the pot on the stove hissed, forgotten. And in that moment, the empire he had built felt so very far away. The kitchen smelled faintly of scorched rice, and something else Grant couldn't name, something that pressed against his chest like a weight. Guilt. He had imagined this homecoming so differently. In his mind, he'd stride in like the picture-perfect father, scoop his boy into his arms, maybe even impress the new hire with his warmth and charm. But reality, it seemed, had no interest in playing along. You said he cried at night, Grant muttered at last, his voice softer now, stripped of its edge. Why didn't anyone tell me? Nia looked at him like he'd just asked why rain was wet. Who would have listened, sir? You were in Geneva, or Dubai, or wherever people like you go when they can't sleep in their own beds. Lucas flinched at her tone. Nia caught the movement instantly, resting a hand on his head and murmuring, "It's okay, baby. No one's mad at you." "I'm not mad at him," Grant said quickly. "Then show him," Nia replied, meeting his gaze, sharp now, unafraid. "He's 4. He can't read between the lines of your silence. All he knows is you leave, and you come back with bears instead of hugs." Grant blinked. She wasn't scolding him for the sake of it. She was guarding Lucas fiercely, instinctively, as if he were her own. That hit him harder than anything else. "I worked 18-hour days for 4 weeks straight," he said quietly. "I thought if I closed that one deal it would pay for his future. College, a life without limits." "But he doesn't understand college, Mr. Ellison," Nia said, her voice softening. "He understands pancakes on Saturdays. Someone to clap when he jumps off the couch." Lucas looked up at Grant then, eyes red-rimmed and unsure. "I didn't know," Grant said, lowering his suitcase to the floor. "You didn't ask," Nia answered gently, without hesitation. Silence stretched between them, heavy and honest. Grant walked over to a stool at the kitchen island and sat down, the immaculate white suit, the polished watch. None of it meant a thing now. He looked at his son, really looked, and noticed the shadows under his small eyes, the weary way he leaned into Nia like she'd been the wall holding him up for far too many nights. "Lucas," Grant said softly. The boy didn't answer at first. Grant tried again, this time opening his arms. Lucas hesitated, then moved. He didn't run like Grant had once pictured. He stepped forward slowly, like someone relearning how to trust. When he reached his father's arms, he didn't leap in. He eased into them, testing the warmth first, as if making sure it was real. Grant pulled him close, holding tight. "I'm sorry, buddy. I didn't realize how lonely you were." Lucas's voice was barely a whisper. "Don't make her leave." Grant glanced at Nia. Her eyes shimmered with fresh tears, but she didn't wipe them away. She stood still, fingers curling around the fabric of her apron. "I don't want her to leave either," Grant said quietly. Nia's lips parted in surprise. "Please stay," he continued, not just as the maid, but as someone who clearly cared for Lucas. Maybe as someone who can help me learn how." Her expression shifted, guarded at first, then confused, then gradually softening. "I don't want to cross any lines," she said gently. "Cross them," Grant replied, "if that's what it takes for him to feel safe again." On the stove, the pot continued to bubble, the burnt rice clinging stubbornly to the bottom. No one moved to tend to it. The food didn't matter. Grant reached for the teddy bear tied to his suitcase and handed it to Lucas. "I brought this for you," he said, "but I should have brought myself sooner." Lucas didn't let go of him, and for the first time in weeks, he didn't cry. Nia watched them and let out a slow breath. The tightness in her back eased, her shoulders lowering as if she'd been carrying something heavy for far too long. For months, she had felt like a ghost in this house, her care offered quietly, unseen, in the spaces no one noticed. But now in this moment she was visible. She mattered. Later that night, after Lucas had fallen asleep curled in his father's lap, Grant stepped into the hallway and found Nia wiping down the stove. She turned as he approached. I know this wasn't the job you expected, he said. It's not, she admitted. But it's the job I needed. He nodded slowly. If you ever want something more, training, school, whatever, you'll have my support. Just promise me one thing. What's that? Don't stop being who you were today. For him. A tired but genuine smile touched her face. I won't. I couldn't if I tried. Grant turned to go, but halfway down the hall he stopped and glanced over his shoulder. Nia. Yes? Thank you, T, for saving my son. She didn't answer with words, just a single nod before turning back to the stove, where a fresh pot of rice had only just begun to simmer. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and hit that subscribe button for more emotional, dramatic, and unexpected tales. And let us know in the comments, where in the world are you watching from? We love hearing from all of you. Until next time, stay kind, stay curious, and keep watching.